Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny, sometimes Colorado. Today is March 5th, 2025, and there's been a lot of speculation on many, many things. The crypto industry is special in that it takes a rumor or news, whatever they want, and they blow it up to enormous proportions, and they go in as many directions as they can. And the latest event is this interesting little get together at the White House March 7th. So here are the facts. Many of my people know people on that side. That's a true statement. I have emails and text messages to prove that. And there's been some engagement on whether people are invited or not. Nobody knew anything about the list. We were told that there'd be a list that comes out on Monday. Uh, we did not get an invitation on Monday. We did not get an invitation on Tuesday. We did not get an invitation today on Wednesday. So I'm going to operate under the assumption I have not been invited to go to this gathering. It's a 4-hour gathering at the White House. I guess the president's speaking. It's going to be a roundtable. I don't imagine much policy work will be done. For the last few months, I've been reminding everybody one fact of the American government that may be lost on our international viewers. The president signs the laws, the legislative branch writes the laws. The vast majority of the sustainable permanent action that will be done at the legislative branch level. The stablecoin bill has to be passed, a market structure bill has to be passed, and dozens of other things are going to have to be written into law or authorizations given to the bureaucracy of the United States to standardize things. For example, when people go, well, Elon Musk is going to go use Doge and blockchain the US government and blockchain everything. Okay, well, how would the DoD write an RFP? What standards are they going to use? Is there a FIPS for it? Is it like FIPS 190 or FIPS 203? No. NIST is going to have to get involved, and dozens of other agencies are going to have to get involved to create a baseline of definitions of what is a blockchain, what is a digital asset, what is a consensus algorithm, what's good, what's bad, what's decentralized, what isn't decentralized, before you can even write an RFP for people to bid on that. You can't award no bid contracts to people. I'll refer you to the JEDI program back in the day. So you need an active Congress. You need a lot of work in the administrative agencies, and the gears of the federal government are slow and methodical. A lot of people are trying to jump the fence. They're trying to create optics because that's what our industry does. It's a very optics driven thing. I consistently have dinner with congressmen and senators, both former and current, and I will consistently do that. And I consistently get pieces of legislation. And when I say I, it's the Royal I, it's my organization. People in the organization are affiliated with it. And the lawyers look at it, they mark it up, and we have an opinion. It's something we've done for years, whether it be back in 2022 when we were looking at early drafts of FIA, or later on when we got drafts of FIT 21 as they were working their way through the House. And you can see pictures and be at meals and events throughout the years. And I said back in November, we don't really know what's happening on the executive side, but on the legislative side, we will continue pushing forward on that because that's where the action is. I'm not entirely sure, and I don't really think anybody really knows what exactly the administrative policy is going to be on the executive branch. And these summits, while they're important because they put a spotlight on the topic, the real work does require many people from across the spectrum in a bicameral basis to work together to get things done. So we have a policy office. It's led by Joel Telpner and Cynthia. Cynthia was the one that you all saw recently with Bo Hines and other industry leaders. Then there's a picture on Twitter. It's public. You can see it. But she's also talking to the policy groups that Perry and Boring and other people lead and others. And we constantly engage and ask, well, what's going to happen? Who needs help where? For example, if there's a standards effort to standardize cryptocurrency definitions, where's that working group going to be nexus? In NIST or somewhere else? Is it from the Department of Commerce or is it from the Treasury Department or somewhere else? There's working groups at the SEC, which are going to be spawned. First round has been announced. More rounds are coming. There's working groups at the CFTC that's going to be spawned. It hasn't been announced yet. There's probably going to be announced sooner rather than later. And they got to work together. And that's just two of the many agencies that are going to be involved. The defense industry hasn't even gotten involved yet. Cybersecurity standards, for example, have to be set. There's dozens of things to do. The US government is a leviathan. Everybody focuses on the president. Everybody focuses on the White House because it's simple and easy to do so. We have tried throughout the last 3 months to have meaningful engagement and get a better understanding of everything from how they were thinking about creating a crypto czar. And it's an absolutely true statement that before the election and after, we made meaningful attempts to reach out to the transition team and talk to them about what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it. And nobody really knew. And then a czar was announced. Okay. And other people were announced. Okay. And then it was confusing. We'd hear, well, they're going to have an advisory council. And for a while, that was the narrative. Then we heard on the other side, well, actually, they're going to have these White House gatherings where people are going to come together and talk. Okay. When and how? We'll let you know. They announce it on Sunday, 6 days notice. And everybody's clamoring. They want to be in the room. And there's so many that want to be in the room. There's now like a second event, which I guess has an extra 75 people. Okay. And they're all going to talk to each other, I guess. And they're going to set some policy. And then that policy has to go through the ringer because then it has to go to the Treasury Department and it has to go to the CFTC and it has to go to the SEC. And the vast majority of it, they'll say, actually, we kind of need to pass a law. And they're going to then go to the Senate. And then they're going to go to the Congress, going to be talking to Congressman Hill, talking to Tim Scott, dozens and dozens of people. And then when it hits there, they say, yeah, I don't know about that. Hang on a second here. Have you thought about this? So whatever's discussed, by the time it gets there, doesn't make a lot of impact. For example, no tax on crypto, American cryptos. What is an American cryptocurrency exactly? And how is that standard set? Is it HBAR? We can make an argument for it. Is it Polkadot? We can make an argument for it. Is it Ethereum? Well, Ethereum was founded in Switzerland. The ICO occurred in Switzerland. The inventor of it is Canadian. The majority of the controllers of it are non-American. All the development companies were outside of the United States. There's very minimal U.S. nexus, with the exception of Consensus in the beginning, which came after the ICO. There's a lot of holding and ownership in the United States, perhaps more than 50% of the token. Hard to say. Is it an American crypto? What about Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin an American crypto? We don't know who the founder is. The majority of the supply wasn't mined in the US. The majority of the hash power is in the United States. So when you say no tax on US crypto, what does that exactly mean? Feel good statement, but it doesn't really have any teeth behind it, and certainly would not survive litigation. And it certainly would not survive the existing laws we have. And if you're actually going to take the duty of writing a law, how would you write that law? What would you do? That's why both branches have to work together and they have to figure this out. And as much as we as an industry want this to be a short process, it's going to be a long and methodical process, which is why we focus most of our policy engagement on the legislative branch. As I've told you consistently from November, December, and beyond. We've tried some engagement with some degree of success on the executive branch side, and we worked really hard to see if there were any opportunities to be in those rooms. And the frustration and challenge for us is we could never get clear answers on such things, not for lack of trying. There's been occasional times where we've had the ability to be in the room for various things, but none of those things were meaningful from a perspective of setting policy. As, for example, I said on David Gokhstein's show that we knew nothing of ADA being selected for the reserve. It was news to me. I woke up on Sunday. I looked at my phone. I had over 150 messages with saying, congratulations and great job, and no idea what the heck was going on. I said, what are you talking about? And then I saw the tweet and I said, wow, that's absolutely amazing. And I guess something was done. but we never knew anything about it. And no one ever even talked to us about it. And we tried really hard to have those conversations. And there was always like, we'll call you back or, yeah, we'll figure it out. Stuff is busy. The executive branch is the busiest of them. They got wars going on. They got tariffs. They got deportations. They got dozens of policy objectives and considerations. And I don't fault them for at times being busy and having challenges keeping up with the enormous demand of contact, which is why, again, it's better in many cases when you're talking about things we have to live with for a long time to engage with the legislative branch because they have the luxury of depth and time. The Securities Exchange Act of 1933 was passed in 1933, 92 years ago. That's a long time. FDR was president. Robert Kennedy's grandfather was the first chairman of the SEC. And that law is still relevant today. You all know it from the Howey test, which was an interpretation of that law from the 1940s as a result of Supreme Court decision. And there's a lot of case law there. And the definition of an investment contract has been updated from time to time, but seldom to accommodate what we need. A cryptocurrency market structure bill could have as meaningful of an impact 50 years, 100 years. Those definitions could still be in use. So this transcends one administration. This transcends one Congress. This transcends one set of industry leaders and actors. If you don't believe me, tell me what CEO from 1933 is still running his company today? What president from that time period is still around? What lawmaker from that time period is still around? What judge from that time period is still around? Maybe they're receiving Social Security benefits, but they're sure as hell not in a position of power and authority. You pass it on from one to another to another. And now we have a window of time, 2 years, and some urgency behind it to be considered and deliberate. And a broader group of people need to be brought into this process. And one of the things that I'm a bit flummoxed by is there's a lot of people who really need to be in the room, who are domain experts, who have enormous knowledge about the industry, who aren't yet in the room, like Lehman Baird from Hashgraph, for example, who thoroughly impressed me when I spent some time with him, or Silvio McCauley from Algorand, for example, or Avery Chang from Aptos, or Benjamin from Multiverse X. There's hundreds of these people that we know, we've engaged with, and we say they understand the technology, they understand the markets, they understand the underlying science behind the technology. They understand how people make money lawfully and not so lawfully because they've run into all these different people throughout the years. And they understand every dimension and aspect of the industry. You can't get all those people in the room if it's 25 people, an invitation only event at the White House. It's just not possible. So there needs to be alternative structures for those people to participate in a considered, systematic, and deliberate way. And perhaps the executive branch can bring some of them together, but will it also bring the international regulators together? What about the ADGM in Abu Dhabi or VARA in Dubai? What about the FCA in the UK? What about FINMA in Switzerland? What about the Singapore Monetary Authority? What about Japan's JFSA? Many of these places have been regulating cryptocurrencies longer than the United States and have billions of dollars of assets there and have had to deal with agency failures, regulatory events, scams, all kinds of things. And they have a lot of wisdom and foresight. More importantly, this is a global industry, not just an American industry. And as an American, I'd love to see this industry grow and thrive. But we have to concede the point that these global 24/7 markets are just that. They're global. They're 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. So kind of sort of need to be interoperable with the global regulatory standards. So where are those agencies going to engage in this process to make sure that US law harmonizes in a way where assets can freely flow? I can construct a crypto transaction that goes to every country in the planet at the same time. UTXO makes that pretty easy. You just have one output matching each country. I guarantee you that's the most illegal transaction you can do. That's the problem with how these technology works. A cryptocurrency can be 12 things at once. They're financial stem cells. Every jurisdiction has a window and a view, has a particular notion of such things, but does not have a clear 100% coverage. And they all have to work together. The law has to reflect that and give the regulatory agencies of the United States enough flexibility that they're able to work with their counterparts globally, or else the industry is not going to work as a whole. Notwithstanding the extremely complex custodial tax standards and litany of things that we have to keep up with. There's also a question of how much needs to be done with self-regulatory organizations versus actual administrative organizations. This is hard, and no one person is going to solve it. No one bill is going to resolve it. And those of us who live in this industry, we have to live with the consequences of it, and we'll be touching it again and again through different Congresses and through different administrations. It wasn't too long ago that Biden was president, and we had to deal with that. It wasn't too long ago that I spoke before Congress in 2022. Feels like a lifetime ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. And I'll be back at some point. And it'll be different congressmen and different senators. We'll be back and we'll have that conversation. And perhaps their opinions have changed, but people who have had negative opinions, they've been emboldened by certain events. It is what it is. You deal with what you deal with. It's not helpful as an industry, though, to treat all of this as some sort of popularity contest and view it like The Bachelor and who gets the rose, who's in the in crowd and who's in the out crowd. If you believe for a moment that your cryptocurrency is going to do well because somebody went to a Vanity Fair, you're a fool, because it tells you know absolutely nothing about how the United States government works and absolutely nothing about how policy is made and how people deal with things. And also, you have to understand that the in crowd and out crowd, it changes very quickly. People who were favored in the beginning could suddenly be thrown away by a single anonymous source somewhere, or vice versa. Politics change, and there's nothing permanent about anyone's position or standing. Power is directly connected to the perception of it and the results of elections, and we've witnessed that. Wasn't too long ago that the U.S. government was brutally attacking Coinbase and Kraken and XRP. Now ADA, something they said when they were going after Coinbase was a security, is apparently going to be inside the National Reserve. It's a bit of a whiplash if you think of that. It's the full embrace. It's pretty interesting. That's how quickly things change. So be nice to everybody. Don't speak in absolutes, and be open to working with everybody and be open to trying to push things along. Our policy office will continue pushing legislation along, working with the lawmakers and trying very hard to have a meaningful impact there to make sure that things are written in a way that stand the test of time. My personal goal is for the crypto legislation that gets passed to be written in a way that we can look back at it decades from now and for it to still be relevant, like the Digital Millennium Copyright Act or the NSFAUP or many of these other things that founded the internet in the United States and thus for the world. That's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of people, a lot of bright minds like the Macaulays and dozens of others. And it's going to require a lot of frank conversations about what doesn't work, especially with those who are ahead of the United States, like the Europeans with MiCA or what the Middle East has done, for better or for worse. And it takes a little bit of humility to admit what we don't know. And it takes a bipartisan appeal for laws to be permanent, for laws to be durable, for laws to exist long term. You do really need to have people from many political persuasions involved in the process. That's an absolute. And when I say things like that, it doesn't make me Mr. Popular. Right now, people want to be of a certain blend, but maybe, just maybe, people from different political persuasions need to be invited to the table because those political persuasions represent tens of millions of Americans and collectively philosophies of billions of people worldwide. Cryptocurrencies can absolutely be used for things that the left cares about, good things. And they absolutely can be used for things that the right cares about, good things. We can never allow our policy to get captured in a way to view this technology as an extension of a political party or a political philosophy. Cryptocurrencies belong to everyone in the world. every single human. And they are the bulwark of protecting human rights, the bulwark of protecting your freedom of association, commerce, and expression, an extension of your God given rights, not your government given ones. And don't believe for a moment that any political party deserves the right to be the custodian of such policy. They have to work together in order to make sure that things are built in a way that the law respects the place and purpose of blockchain technology and cryptocurrency technology. So I had travel plans to go to Japan. Supposed to get on a plane here in a little bit, and I will be Friday the 7th in Japan. I'm going to operate under the assumption that I'm not going to this event, especially after this video, and that's okay. I'm always available for a phone call, and I'm always available for an email, and I have very strong opinions about things, where they should go, what they should do, how they should do things, and I'll express those opinions to those who ask me. But my primary job is not lawmaker. My primary job is cryptocurrency CEO. Every single day I wake up and I ask questions like, how do I get more adoption for Cardano? How do I implement Leos? How do I get Bitcoin DeFi done? How do I ship midnight? How do I build the next generation DApp? How do we get the next white paper written, of which we have over 240 research papers with people all throughout the world, many of which are the brightest minds in the world? And how do I turn those papers into the future products that people care about? Not for Americans, but for the world. I'd like America to be part of that story, and I was deeply saddened over the last 4 years to see the Biden administration cause such grievous harm and damage and trust. But don't think for a moment that when I wake up, I say Cardano is for America. When I wake up, I say Cardano is for the world. It's always been the case. It's why we were in Africa and continue to be in Kenya. It's why I went down to Argentina and we had our constitutional convention there. And while the U.S. flag was well represented by a West Point grad down in Argentina during the constitutional convention, there were 49 other flags that complemented at that convention. And everybody came together as one group in unity with a belief that the technology can bring us all together because it's truly global technology. I remembered that. Satoshi remembered that when he wrote about Bitcoin. Vitalik at times has mentioned that in his writing. A lot of the OGs who've been around for a long time have never forgotten that because we've had the luxury to travel. I've been to 75 countries since I became a cryptocurrency entrepreneur. I've met people everywhere, from Mongolian camel herders to people in Zanzibar and Burundi to kings in the Middle East, and every single person in between. And when I look at all of them, I say they are all truly equal under what we are building as an ecosystem. And that's a good thing. So I will be in Japan on Friday with the Cardano community, the same group of people that trusted us a long time ago in 2015 to go on this insane journey to go and build something to change the world. And we'll be there to talk about the Cardano budget. That's the most meaningful and important thing to me right now. And we'll be there to talk about the roadmap of Cardano and the future of it and how we achieve adoption, and amongst many other things. In the coming weeks and months, a lot of political stuff to do. In fact, JJ's already in DC doing various things, and many people, especially in the legislative branch, to engage with. But by the way, we're certainly going to be talking to regulators in Japan, and we're going to be talking to regulators in the Middle East, and we're going to be talking to regulators in Europe, and we're going to be talking to regulators in South America, and we'll be talking to regulators in Africa. All the places you can imagine. We'll go and talk and engage with them because they have people too, and their people are Cardano users too. There's nothing more joyous for me than to be in a place I've never been and for somebody to come up to me who knows me and says, I use ADA. And as much as my heart would want ADA to stand for America's digital asset, it stands for Ada Lovelace, a person I deeply admire and respect, but also a person who had the foresight to give humanity the first computer program. Computing liberated the world, and it gave us a space to think into. I like naming things after people that give us stuff or remind us of great lessons both good and bad. Computers changed my life and made me the person I am today and gave me the ability to do amazing things that no human would normally be able to do. And I'm so grateful to her contributions, which is why we named Ada the way we did. And every single person who holds it gets to honor that message and that mission, regardless of what country you're from, who you're from. Great empires, they come and go, but human rights, they have to stay. Principles have to stay. Inspirations stay. The 21st century is going to be crazy. This Tuesday, company I'm invested in announced the woolly mouse. They took woolly mammoth genes and they put it in a mouse. Think about that. They're really cute and they're fluffy, they're soft. That's the world we live in now, the world that has woolly mice. Imagine what the world's going to look like in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years. What's going to get us there is people waking up every day and trying to do some good and work with each other. What's going to get us there is decentralization and the bottom up. The president doesn't have the power. You do. Never forget that. The people collectively have the power, and power comes from coordination. What we demonstrate in the cryptocurrency space is the ability for hundreds of millions of people across the world to coordinate and build a parallel financial system to compete with a system led by people with trillions of dollars and giant militaries. And we're winning. As seductive and tempting as it can be to have the US government or any government get involved in our space to create temporary market distortions, we must never forget the reason why cryptocurrencies exist is so that we no longer need governments. We can transcend them. That, my friends, is why we're really here and what we're really doing. Policy helps us get there, but ultimately we have to make a decision. What do we believe in? Do we like what we have, or do we want to change? And I made that decision a very long time ago when I was a lot younger, a lot thinner, didn't have this white in the beard, that I wasn't happy with what I had. That's why I campaigned for Ron Paul. And ever since that day, every day I've woken up, I've tried to change things, to push things along. Had some good days, had some bad days, had some fun days. I've enjoyed a lot of this. And I continue to stay because I think I can still make a difference. So that's what we're doing. So I'll see you guys in Japan on Friday. Thank you so much for all that you've done for me. And thank you to the Japanese community for being the heart and soul of the beginnings of Cardano. You mean a lot to me. And there's, frankly speaking, nowhere I'd rather be right now than there. And then next week, I'll be somewhere else. And next week, I'll be somewhere else. I'll keep moving. I'll keep traveling. We got a lot of work to do. We got the roadmap to finish. We got the budget to finish. We got Laos to do. We got Midgard to implement. We got Bitcoin DeFi. I'll be at all the major events, Blockchain Paris and Token 2049 and Bitcoin 2025. Talk to all the major people, push things along. We will get that done. And I hope for the best for America. I really do. I live there. It is my home. And as I've said, my bones will be buried there when I die. And you may notice in every live stream, I got an American flag behind me. I love this country, and I really hope for the best. And I do believe we will get there. But I also believe it's going to take some sacrifice and pain and struggle. And sometimes some of us have to take harder roads, which are less popular. But nothing great is ever achieved when people seek admiration, love, and accolades. Greatness comes only when you're tested and when you don't get the accolades, but you do it anyway. That was the story of where America got founded, and we'll remember that story again. There's so many great Americans out there, and thank you for being part of my family too. The most fun I've had has been traveling all around the nation, state after state, and meeting some real cool people with amazing stories. I'm proud of all of you. proud of what you've done, proud of the struggles you've gone through and how you've survived and thrived throughout them. You mean a lot to me. And know that I saw it firsthand, and it renewed and reinvigorated my belief in the exceptionalism of this great nation. So until next time, have a wonderful day. See you in Japan.